Well, hey, and welcome to another episode of Beatle Dustino coming at you again today with yet another video and yet another Beatle Dustino Score album review video. And I'm kind of veering off of the Beatles for a bit here, as today I'm going to be seeing this band and I kind of want to do a review of their album as I'm kind of off to see them live again for the second time. First time since, wow, they pretty much debuted. But anyways, we're going to talk about this album and this band, the Boyz II Men and Cooleyhighharmony. So stay tuned for my review after the intro. So yes, I know this seems odd for Beatle Dustino to be talking about this album and this band, but Boyz II Men, Cooleyhighharmony, and yes, these guys introduced me to the Beatles, or at least helped push me into being a Beatles fan. Not that I wasn't introduced to them already, but they were the guys that made me say, hey, maybe I should get listening to some more of them. Unfortunately, not on this album. I am going to review, it would be their second, yet it was their third album. I'm going to review that another day, and hopefully soon. But I do want to get this reviewed and out there before I go see them in person again today. I'm really excited. I'm going to see them at the Red River Valley Fair in Fargo, North Dakota. They're playing the bandstand there. And I saw them way back when they first came out. I know End of the Road had just came out because that's the song I won, knowing it was on the radio. The radio was giving away tickets to go see MC Hammer and the Too Legit to Quit tour. Did I do it right? I didn't. Too legit to quit. It's been a while. All right, but yeah, it was his tour on that, and then the opening acts for him were Boyz II Men and TLC, two up and coming bands there that had just blown up after that. I mean, Boyz II Men and TLC both were quite huge, but unfortunately TLC didn't make it. The one member was sick. I know she was sick quite a bit, and unfortunately couldn't make it. But yeah, the radio station was giving away tickets. If you heard a Boyz II Men song, you were like the third caller or something like that. And I heard the first couple of notes of End of the Road, and I was dialing up I happened to be sitting right by a phone, and I was dialing up the radio station, and somehow I won. They came to Bismarck, North Dakota, which was a bit of a drive for me, but I dragged my mom along with, because I didn't have a driver's license yet. I wasn't too far away, but I didn't have a driver's license yet. And made her drive me out to Bismarck, and she came to the show with me. Along with the tickets for the show, I also got a backstage pass, pretty much a little meet and greet more than a backstage pass. It was supposed to be TLC, which was kind of weird seeing as I won off of a Boyz II Men song, but I think it was only Boyz II Men too they were doing. I don't think it was TLC or a MC Hammer song came on. I think it was just Boyz II Men. So really weird. The meet and greet was for TLC. Which, of course, like I said, they weren't there, so default it went to Boyz II Men, which was even cooler. And I always say, after the John Lennon estate gifted me with a record there, the last record store day release, Beatley Tone, told me, he's like, you never know who's watching. So possibly Boyz II Men might see this. And I just want to say, if you guys remember coming to Bismarck there, I remember everybody was meeting you. We were about maybe the 10th people back in line to meet you. I remember Sean Stockman was right in front, and they were just hey, how's it going, and everybody's just shaking their hand and kind of walking out. And we came up, my mom was in front of me, and my mom being my mom, she walks up to him, hey, welcome to North Dakota. And they all lit up and thanks. And it was the first they showed any sort of like enthusiasm to be in there. So as I got up to go meet them, they were smiling a little more and being a little more cheery, and so my mom kind of cheered them up there, I guess. So if you guys remember that was my mom and that was me right after her. So welcome to North Dakota again, though, guys, to Fargo, North Dakota. This time not Bismarck, but coming from some Grand Forkians, not Fargoians or Bismarckians. I don't know what you would call them. But anyways, we're here to talk about this. I'm kind of going along on the story here. This album really meant a lot to me, and this particular version of it, this particular CD, was my very first CD. So this led to all this craziness, and I still got it in my collection. This was the exact one that I first bought at the Grand Forks Air Force Base, BX, and it came in the long box. Unfortunately, I don't have the long box anymore. I bought it before I even had a CD player. I had the cassette of this album and loved the cassette so much. I'm sure I wore it out almost, but I wanted to get the CD as soon as I could, and it kind of helped me justify getting a CD player for Christmas for my parents maybe, and sure enough, I did get a CD player this year after I bought this. But yeah, let's just go through a little bit about the album here. So this Cooleyhighharmony originally came out on April 30th, 1991. It has since went 9 times platinum by the RIAA levels there. Came out on LP, CD, cassette, and of course now it's available streaming. So a few formats there that you could get it. It was produced by Dallas Austin and the Characters. Dallas Austin pretty much did the first 8 songs, and the Characters were the last 2, and I will get into that as I kind of go through each song here. That there is quite a noticeable difference there. Let's see, it was re-released in 1992, the rest of the world, and it added in End of the Road, some remixes during the main album there. End of the Road, which was originally on the Boomerang soundtrack. It was also on the East Coast Family Volume 1 album. And then In the Still of the Night, I'll Remember, I'm sorry, which was on the Jacksons and American Dream soundtrack. I should have that up there too. So yeah, it had the remixes of some of the main album songs, and then End of the Road and In the Still of the Night, I'll Remember. So, and then in 2009, that's where I'm getting ahead of myself here, we had a digitally remastered version of it reissue with a 2 CD kind of deluxe package, and it featured a bunch of remixes now this time. So it had the main core album, where this 92, oh yeah, and that reissue in 92 got reissued finally in the US in 93. It had a completely different album cover, completely different track list almost too. And this went back to the original track list on this 2009 deluxe edition. Again, kind of a different album cover, but still pretty close to what this was, where that other one is completely different. And then, yeah, it had the 2 CDs with all the remixes and 2 previously unreleased songs, which would be Just a Cover and Can't Be Liked. There we go. So let's see. Let's go through this with each track and then get you the Dustino Score. So kicking off the first song would be Please Don't Go. Michael Bass McCary really had his little talking part thing throughout this one, and then I wrote down great harmonies and very 90s R&B sound to it, which I think that's pretty much to be said for the whole album here. I gave that song though a 7. The second track would be Lonely Heart. I really, listening to it today as I was doing kind of my review and my notes on it all, I seem to remember back then, because I haven't listened to this album in ages, but yeah, I seem to remember even back then I never was that huge of a fan of it. It's a good song, I'm not putting it down on that, but the opener, the Please Don't Go opener, was pretty good, but this seemed to be, for the second track on the album, should have been more in the middle, I think, because it slowed down so much, and it really kind of, my one score with the flow and the vibe, it really does bring that down. But yeah, I said it was way slow, great harmonies, but really too turned down for the second track is what I wrote. And I gave that one a 6. Third track though is This Is My Heart, and I said better pace, picking things up, still great harmonies. Of course, I mean, it's Boyz II Men, they got great harmonies. So, and I seem to love really good harmonic bands. They get, you know, the Beach Boys, the Beatles, stuff like that. I really love that. So I can see why I really gravitated towards Boyz II Men, being the big Beach Boys fan I was before that, then Boyz II Men, and then leading me into exploring the Beatles. So, which seems like a really weird transition, but that was the path I took on that, I guess. So, but yeah, I gave This Is My Heart a 7. Fourth track would be Ooh Ah. I said I love the countdown opening, them in harmony doing 1 or 4 or 5 or whatever, however they counted it down, but they actually sang it instead of just said it. Michael McCrary, bass, you know, injection, fellas, and then they get singing the song there, and I said, for considering how young I was when I was listening to this, I mean, kind of pre-teen era there, and I said this is a little explicit for the kid that I was listening to this, but I gave it a 7 though. I seem to remember I always kind of got a kick out of that song, and maybe a little like, ooh, a little naughty, but whatever. and still as an adult, now re-listening to it, I'm like, ooh, okay. Fifth song on the album, and this one is, wow, what a song. But yeah, it would be It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday. It's a cappella I wrote, but not like you thinking like a cappella now, like the Pentatonics, which Sean Stockman did help discover on the Sing-Off show, the competition show for the a cappella groups. That is where Pentatonics got discovered, and Sean Stockman was one of the judges on that host or panel on that. So, but yeah, It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday. Just amazing a cappella song. As a matter of fact, I was listening to that expanded edition of Cooleyhighharmony, and they had a radio edit version of it, and that's the first I'd heard it, but little bit different with some of the vocals, but they added in like a weird keyboard type, a synthesizer type electronic sound, not even a real instrumentation behind it. And I said, they absolutely ruined this. I was listening to it with my one buddy, and he's a musician and singer and everything, and yeah, he's listening to it with me too, and he goes, yeah, they really did. But yeah, it was, I still remember it too from the Lethal Weapon 3 movie. That scene in there just gives you chills, and wow. And I said absolute perfection though, and great side one closer. Just perfect song, absolutely perfect song. I've loved this song ever since I first heard it. It's part of what really made me love Boyz II Men, was how well they did with their voices and the a cappella stuff. And I'm giving this an absolute 10. This is an absolute 10 of a song. If there is a song that deserves a 10, it's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday. Perfect 10 on that. So now that other version, like I said, yeah, not so great. But this, yes, top notch. So side 2 will open up with Motown Philly. Now I listened to the streaming version and the CD version just recently. They really screwed that up. I wish they would have put a little more of a gap, because I think after It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday, I think you need a little bit of a pause. When I first was listening to this album, I had the cassette, so there was that pause with it flipping to this other side there. I've never listened to the LP. I don't have a copy of the LP, but I did at least have the cassette, and I do remember going from that pause in there, and you kind of need that from It's So Hard to Say Goodbye going into Motown Philly. The side 2 on this album, I think, is a little bit stronger of an album, at least of a side, at least starting with the first 3 songs. The end of it, though, maybe not so much, but it's only 10 tracks on this album, so I think it was a really well rounded album, time-wise and everything. So, but yeah, we got Motown Philly at the 6th song on the opener of side 2. I don't know if it's just my nostalgic love of it, because I absolutely loved this song when I was a kid, when I first started listening to them, and still to this day, I get those feels with it. It's just such a cool song to me, even though it's nowhere near kind of the style of music I listen to now. But I kind of love the lyrics in it, how it's totally the Boyz II Men origin story. How many bands like tell their origin story in a song? And I mean, and considering it was their first big single too, they're telling you right here, this is how we got here. This is how this song is on the radio. This is us. Here we are. Hi, this is us introducing Boyz II Men, but here's our origin story on how we got here. Just crazy on that. And I love Michael Bivins being in there to kind of portray his part as their origin story, as they met him backstage and sang a little tune for him, and that's what got them their contract and everything. Him, introducing the right people and so forth and so on. Michael Bivins, of course, of Belle Biv DeVoe. Him doing his little rap in there and everything. And then the one line, I wrote this down in there because I love Michael McCary when he goes, "And all the Philly steaks you can eat." That was their whole dream, was to get so many Philly steaks that they could eat. But yeah, great opener for side 2, and yeah, a better side of the album there. And I gave this one a 9. I absolutely love Motown Philly. I'm sorry, I swear that's a bit of a nostalgic score, but yeah, it's my score and I'm sticking with it there. Up next will be track 7, Under Pressure, and I said great pace to keep up after Motown Philly. Really, just a good vibe and good flow to the album with this point of the album here. Love the sampling and that, and them playing around in the studio at the beginning, even throughout the song. You kind of hear them reacting to the producer, and I know it was totally set up. It wasn't like it was like a live thing. This is just how they meant it to be, but it's still kind of cool hearing something like that, with them interacting with the sound engineers and the producer and that in the sound booth and that. And this one, I really like this song, and I'm giving it an 8 on that. And speaking of 8, we got track 8, which would be Simpin'. Simpin' ain't easy. But yeah, the James Bond style opening intro to it, and then it goes from that into Belle Biv DeVoe's Poison, the little drum beat from Poison, and then kind of the sampling throughout there. And there were so many remixes of this song, I remember, and none of them were as good as this album version. So that really kind of shocks me on that. I suppose, though, with all that sampling in it, maybe it was harder to get radio play, with the rights and everything, where if it's on the album, it's kind of just there. But yeah, the album version of Simpin' to me is just top notch. I love all the little samples and all the little plays on that. Good song, and I'm giving that one an 8 also. So 8 gets an 8 on that. Then we get to track 9, and this is the first one that is done up by the Characters. Did I say that right earlier? I hope I did. All right, but yeah, the Characters started the production on this. Plus, on top of that, most of these other songs, aside from It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday, were either written directly by Boyz II Men, or Boyz II Men had, one of the members of Boyz II Men, I should say, had a say in the writing credit on it. It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday was the only one that wasn't, yet they were all produced by Dallas Austin. These last two songs are written by somebody completely different and produced by the Characters there or whatever. And it really, again, kind of wrecked the flow and the vibe of the album because it was so different that it really kind of took away from that. It didn't have the sound of the rest of the album. And to close out the album with these two songs really didn't help it out. But it was Little Things is the next song, though, track number 9. You can really hear that shift, like I said, in the producer. Oh, yeah, and I love the line in this song. I kind of laughed at this when I was listening to it. Don't expect life to be perfect. They don't come with static clean. But I've given this one a 6, even though I got a kick out of that line. So one of the lower ranks on this album here. And then track 10, Your Love, still noticeably different on that producer change. Very jarring for the closers of the album here. Plus the different writers, that was pretty much my notes on it. But yeah, Your Love is also getting a 6. And I already kind of went through that with, yeah, I'm kind of reading my notes as I got them here. Yeah, just that how most of the album was written by, or at least co-written by a member of Boyz II Men, and then all that. So it really kind of took the album a whole different way. Now, however, because it wasn't out far after the album, it would be The End of the Road. It came out very soon after this album kind of hit, and as a single, and it was on that Boomerang soundtrack and the East Coast Family Volume 1 little compilation. I think had that made it onto this album, maybe instead of one of those other songs or something, and been placed right on the album, I think it would have made this even that much better, because I would be willing to bet I'm not ranking End of the Road on this, even though it is on one of those kind of expanded reissued albums. But I don't want to include it. I'm just doing, an album ranking on this version of the album, the original version of it. And I feel like if End of the Road was to be included on there, it would really get a pretty high score, at least a 9 or a 10 almost, I would say, because I really like that song. But that would be it for the album and kind of my notes on it there. The song totals overall with the Dustino Score came up to a 7.4 out of 10. The flow and vibe of the album, I'm going to give it a bit of a hit with that 2 different producers, and it was a very noticeable difference. Plus, some of the songs, like I said, they didn't really have that second song on the first track there, or right after the first track, the Lonely Heart. Really seemed to take the pace out of the album and everything, and I just feel like they didn't have the flow and the vibrate, so I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. So still not terrible, but I just can't give it anything higher than a 7. The artwork and packaging, I do really love this album art, and I love the fact that the LP has got just slightly different version, and the cassette too, for that matter, where the LP, obviously, you do a little more on the sides there, so they get kind of the full border around, like this has got at the top and the bottom. I should have a picture of it up there. But yeah, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 because how cool do they look in that picture? They just look so cool with their canes and their walking sticks and the big jackets, the big coats on there and everything. They look so cool. That is awesome photo there and everything. And so I'm giving that an 8 out of 10. Packages available, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10 because they did have that reissued one, which did kind of really change stuff up. Unfortunately, I don't think it had as good of an album cover, but it's still, a different package than someone else. They did have it on LP, they did have it on cassette, they did have it on CD, and now you do get it streaming too, so we've got quite a few media options on it. And also there is that deluxe version, that expanded version that came out in 2009. However, getting the actual physical copy nowadays in 2025, it is super expensive. I guess it was pretty limited. It's super expensive to get your hands on one of those copies. So, but I'm still going to give it a pretty strong rating on this package's available score, which is 9 out of 10. Giving the album total altogether for its overall Dustino score out of 40, a 31.4. So not too bad. I think it is the lowest rated album that I've done so far. However, some of my earlier Dustino Score albums I think might need to get rescored because I'm kind of getting the feel for it a little better and what I'm looking for on everything, and some of those earlier ones might have a little bit lower of a score. So and it might put it right down with where this one's at. So all right. But anyways, that is Cooleyhighharmony and my review on it. Like I said, I am hoping to do 2 pretty soon. I was kind of hoping I would do both of them, but with my 4th of July weekend and everything, and just everything else right now, these album reviews take a little bit more time than my typical videos. So I want to make sure I give 2 really good credit and spend some time with it and really get a good feel for it before I just rip out a review on it. Stay tuned for that, but I think you're going to see some other Beatles albums reviewed before that one gets done. So but anyways, I am going to get fully wrapping up. Before I do, though, I want to once again thank all my subscribers, and thanks to any new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And do hit the notification bell so you know when I got new videos coming out, like my next album review. Also, please give the video a like. And like I always say, if you stuck around to this point, you must like it. So please give it a like and do leave a comment. I love having a discussion with everybody. Let me know your thoughts on Boyz II Men and Cooleyhighharmony. Are you a fan of the album? Are you a fan of the band? A chance you're going to go see them on their tour that they're on right now, or have you seen them in the past? I know they've toured quite a bit, so I know they've been out there, and I know they had their residency in Vegas. So let me know where you've seen them, when you've seen them, and what albums you really love of theirs, and what you think of Cooleyhighharmony. Anyways, before I get rambling or anything too much more here, I'm going to get fully signing out. I am Beatle Dustino, signing out.